Talker, it's a Friday, the 6th of this month of August in this year 2021. Another very lovely morning. And of course, picking it up from where the Good Morning Uganda team today on their GMU Friday left it. Welcome. And of course, today we again up there to see, by the grace of God, whether we can again make it and get a gold medal, a silver medal, and possibly a bronze when Ugandans are on to the track today in Tokyo as the Olympics 2020 also near the end. Now the Olympics will be ending on Saturday. We have Ron Cheptegei, Limo, Kiplima, I think, and Nanyondo. They will be up there. And remember, we've only had 3 gold medals in the history of Olympics. The first that we got was Akibwa, John Akibwa. The second was Stephen Kiprotich. The third was recently when we got one from Perth Chimtai. And you never know, we might get other more medals today. Let's cheer up. The boys and girls are representing Uganda in Tokyo. Now, back to our Pan-African Friday. This morning, lots of things to talk about here. And we'll delve so much into the issues of the diaspora. Now, with me in studios, my usual panelists, James Mutu. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning again, but also good morning our viewers who are viewing us from within Uganda and across the borders.
Okay, thank you very much. And I call Mandy Amazima. You're also very welcome today on Pan-African Friday.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning, everyone. Those who are viewing us within and without the country, it's always a pleasure sitting here as we discuss matters that affect or that are of paramount importance to the continent.
Okay. Yeah. Well, very important. Today we're supposed to talk about issues of the diaspora and, of course, amplifying our agenda in the diaspora. And we're supposed to be joined by Lydia Natoro, the UNA Vice President, and Mr. Albert Kasara, the UNA Deputy Speaker, right there. But very unfortunately, at the 11th hour, they cannot really be with us tonight or this morning. But nonetheless, in studios today, we have Mr. Edward Katende from the Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, and one of the Ugandans who has lived in the diaspora for quite a long time. You're very welcome, Mr. Katende.
Thank you, my classmate, and good morning, viewers.
Well, happy to have you, and thank you so much for joining us and for being in studios. How are you managing with the pandemic of COVID-19 at a personal level? Well,
it's a very tough time, but some of us who are born in the 70s, we have seen tough times. We have seen wars, we have seen epidemics, but never have we ever seen a pandemic. So this has been a tough one on a health perspective, but also on our business, the way we do things. And of course, we have to adapt to the, as they say now, to the new normal.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Ugandans want to understand what diaspora means. What's the difference? What's the meaning of diaspora from maybe asylum seeking? Because we have Ugandans in the diaspora, and we have those who actually say we came as asylum seekers, and they are actually in asylum, or whatever that means. How should Ugandans best understand this thing called the diaspora?
Yeah, my take is that the diaspora is a bigger community of our nationals living outside the country. So they could be there for so many reasons. One could be political asylum, or it could be economic migration, it could be social. I could have gone to play football and end up
and I disappeared in Japan.
And not here. So all Ugandans that are living outside our country are qualified to be Ugandans in the diaspora. Unfortunately, I think some of them exclude themselves. And what we are also seeing that some even demonize their country. Keep thinking, oh, Uganda is trash. Everything they could say is negative about our country. But all the same, they are Ugandans, only that they are not living here.
From personal experience, why did you go to the diaspora? Why did you move to the diaspora? Did you go to study? Did you go to work? Did you run away because of some of those reasons that you're giving? Why did you choose to vacate, to move from Uganda to go and live in the diaspora for the so many years that you were there?
No, in my case, I finished my degree at the university. I got a job, and I realized I needed to upgrade my education. And because I studied finance, I think one of the best centers of excellence in finance is London. And in order for me to be globally competitive, I had to go where the best are. So I went to London initially for further studies, where I qualified as a chartered accountant, but also had to undertake further studies as a master's in business at London Business School, which is a prestigious business school in the world. But of course, after getting that kind of education, you become even attractive to the Brits who are looking for the best and brightest. So I was persuaded to stay in London to work in accounting firms, while of course sending my remittances back home.
Okay, well, that's very important. Ndugu Wako, let me come to you. We talk about Uganda's agenda in the diaspora. Now, fortunately, in studios this morning, we have Ndugu Katende here, who has lived in the diaspora, and of course, has given us reasons why he decided to go there. Now, many of them go to the different countries for different reasons and because of different issues. Let's get to Uganda's agenda. Do we think we even have it, or we want to just ride on those who are already there? Once you know that Katende is there, then we claim him, even without knowing how Katende managed to make his way to go and further his education in London.
Well, I think maybe the missing link is that at times I think most people, about 70%, leave the country minus understanding and knowing what the country's agenda in the diaspora is. But again, most of the people who go out, who go especially to, or who go overseas, legally, at least they find time to report to the embassy. And at the embassy, they are taken through what the agenda of the country is in some cases. But also you have a group that actually leaves the country, perhaps illegally, and acrimonious or scrupulous circumstances, and when they get out there, it's rare for them to really actually even get to the embassy. That even you'll ask somebody who's Uganda's ambassador in that particular country, they even don't, they have no idea who the person is. So those are the categories, the two categories. There are those who go, who leave the country legally, and those who live legally, and they stay wherever they're staying legally. So those who legally stay there definitely will always, every other time, interface with the embassies to know what is happening. Even when either a delegation from Uganda, be it a minister, be it the president, that they will always meet. They will always find time to meet such a delegation. Yeah, but that said, I think whoever goes out, especially those in the diaspora, first of all, the issue that people should look at is selling the country's image. I'll give an example of what happened in Tokyo. You find that people like Peruth Chemtai, those are very good ambassadors of the country, because the agenda of sending them there was to win medals for the country. But also we had the Sechitori cause. It was also it was a different category, and they misrepresented the country. That every other time you out, like the other time we had Chakwita, who said that the ambassador told them that everybody outside Uganda is Uganda's ambassador, and I actually wish to take that angle. That once you, no matter our contradictions we have here during and after elections, we should know when to stop and then when to come together, reconcile, and work for the country.
Well, away from Chemtai, you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, I wanted to add that while he talks about two categories, there is a third category of Ugandans who leave Uganda legally. You go abroad, you do what you do, and your legal right to stay expires. And then you go what we call underground. And while you're underground, of course, you suffer quite a lot. So in such cases, they may not even want to be seen at the embassy. Some of them actually end up being abused because you can't run anywhere, you can't use your legal rights, because you're basically in hiding. So that category is there. And in my view, if there was a way the embassy could target such people and try to help them, so they become, over years, you become super negative because of what you're going through. And you even start hating your own country, as if it is the country that led you to where you are. So such people would, it would be very difficult for them to speak positively about many things, not just Uganda, but about life generally. There are people you will find and they will tell you, but Ugandans can't be trusted. Ugandans are bad. And then you wonder, are you a bad person? Because you are also Ugandan. But it is the conditioning, the environment that I've been living in underground that now conditions them to become negative, not only against Uganda, but anything that comes up.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Now just gleaning on what Ndugu Akoli has talked about, is saying that yes, when you look at Perth Cheptai, for example, the other day we saw Kiplimo and Cheptegei winning medals for us, the silver and the bronze. Now that's a different category of Ugandans bucketing the country, because they go for a competition, which competition they know has got a reward onto it. You either go and win. If you don't win, if you don't get the gold, the silver, a bronze, then you've just represented the country. And many would even want to run away and escape and say, I missed the opportunity, because Ugandans will not celebrate you for having participated. Ugandans will celebrate you for bringing a medal, be it a bronze, a silver, a gold. Ugandans now know Chemtai. They do not know the other team members who went with Chemtai, because they didn't do anything for the country. So those might find themselves running away. But I also want to look at our agenda onto the diaspora. When we look at these people, for example, Katende moves out of this country to go and further his education, to go and get the competitiveness that the globe desires. He gets there. How many Katendes do we have that go for education and they say, I'll go, live there and all the things? And how many Katendes do we have who have an opportunity and say, I have a master's degree in Uganda, I am not earning as I should be earning, but there's a job of driving a cab in London. I'd rather drop this job, go to London and drive a cab, go to London and do all the things, and maybe serve in a cafe or whatever it is. Let me run and go and just find my way there. Then there's also that other category. We need to look at them and quantify. There's this category of a Mtuta who goes to the UK and he thinks, yes, I have a 2-year visa. So I'll find my time in here. The moment they get there, then they start getting advices of how to actually legalize their stay in there and maybe get documents and stuff like that. 2 years later, nothing has worked out. And the only thing is, my passport has expired, my visa has expired, I can't go back to Uganda, because when I go back to Uganda, there will be no chance for me to come back. Then those also stay there. What agenda do we have? What kind of program do we, as a country, have a specific agenda on these people? That there's a Katende who goes to further education, he will be there in London or US for so many years. There's an Akol who says, I am just a fortune seeker. Come what may, I'll find my way. Then there is a Mtuta who goes for a sport and he says, no, I can't go back to Uganda. I have a pregnant wife home, I have a poor mother somewhere, so I will also find my way. When things work out, so many years later, I'll find my way back to... What's our government agenda on these people? Or we just take pride in them when we think they are excelling and doing something? Mtuta?
I think government has many things, and maybe next time we'll have someone at that level who will be able to explain in the nitty-gritties.
Especially from the foreign department.
Yes, on what government plans and what has. Of course, as we speak now, government has a desk in foreign affairs for diaspora, where most of the affairs are coordinated. But what I know is that the government is not going to come up with a policy or a program that is going to cater for whoever lives in this country, especially when you are living illegally and unknown. And if you want to get to London or to New York or to whichever city and you want to stay, that one may not be easy to understand. I know there are countries that have deliberate programs. India, for example, China, and even India, have a program where they identify programs. They know in the next 10 years, we are going to need doctors, and the type of doctors we are going to need are going to be neurosurgeons, or we are going to need doctors who are going to be ABCD. So they identify a country where there are good schools, especially the UK or the US, and they will have most of their students take those places for those particular courses. Now, after they study, then they will get back to where they came from. But also the students have options. As professionals, they can decide to stay where they have studied, because there are many anyway. So they will decide to stay where they have studied, and they can get a living from there. Because when you're talking about China, you're talking about India, these are big populations. Now, for Uganda, you remember recently when the president said, well, if we are having a deficit with the doctors, we can employ doctors from Cuba. And you had the uproar which was here. That what about ours? Yesterday I was discussing with someone who was saying, why can't Uganda also do like Kenya, because they have opened up a market for nurses in London? But do we even have enough nurses in Uganda to begin with, if we can, before we begin exporting them to UK? Anyway. But some of these programs, people look at them today, but they have been here for quite some time. Korea, for example, when they started exporting workers to Germany. But at one point, the President Park said, no, we cannot continue doing this because of the conditions that these people are subjected to when they exported to those countries. We have been having problems with our girls who are going to the Saudis. So, you know, some of the things, sometimes people blame government for their own mistakes. But it is not a government program. If you are sent by government, the embassy will have a record of where you are working, where you are studying. If there are problems, I appreciate that some of our embassies don't have enough finances to cater for everyone, but at least there will be a record, so that if there's a problem, you are traceable, and the problem can be addressed. But most of these people go through kangaroo ways, ad hoc. They just want to find themselves there, but they don't look at the consequences of just going there, and that's why I think the Ministry of Gender is deregistering most of these companies that have been exporting this labor to these countries. People find, last time when we were in Korea, we were with the Honorable Namiyangu and Jennifer, yeah, and there were these Ugandans who are living in Korea. So knowing that there was a minister, I think for them, and had known some of them, so they said, we wanted to have an audience at least with the minister, and the meeting was organized. But the problem was, and for them I could understand, it's genuine. They're saying, look, we have been here, there's work here that we can do. The problem is that our government does not have an agreement with the Korea, like other Asian countries, of exchange of labor. That where there's a deficit, you can source labor from a neighboring country or another country with whom you have an agreement. Now, Uganda doesn't have that agreement. Of course, the Uganda government is in the process of having that agreement that you can export that labor. But which labor are we talking about also? What type of labor do we expect to export to these countries, and how much are we earning from there? The Katendes and others are few, that you have professionals who have been sent out there. Their earning is big enough. They can survive, but they can also send some money back home, because you know these capitals we're talking about, the cost of living is very high, and these people have to survive. But beyond their survival, they also have to save, that they can send some money back home. And sometimes people are surviving in very hard conditions. I was in New York, and we met these Ugandans. They were not actually, most of them were not Ugandans, but were Ethiopians and Kenyans. You hire one cubicle, you hire one apartment, a room, an apartment, yes, and you people are living there about 7, 8, so that. Because others are some are working during the day and others are working during the night. For those when they have gone out to work during the day, then those who are working in night are back and home and sleeping. When those ones who are working in the night come back, then these ones who working the day come back. Those ones who are working in the day are also moving. Now, on an ordinary day like the specific holidays where you are not working, then everyone is at home. Then you have all this a number of people in one home.
Okay.
And these are mature people. They are supposed to have privacy. So that life, a person is sacrificing all of that good life to be able to earn some money, use some of it, but also send some back home. Okay. So for me, if those ones can talk of how can government help? How can government support us in that order? It is understandable. But for the underworld, okay, it is very difficult because you don't know who is there. Okay. You hear people have escaped, but you can't tell. Like this guy, if he was able to escape and disappear in Japan, it would have been very hard now for government to follow him up, or even to trace him up to find him. If he had a problem, it would have been very hard for government to help. To
find out.
Yes.
Okay, well, we just missed an opportunity of having those in the diaspora. Lydia Natoro, the UNA Vice President, and Mr. Albertia Bakasara, the UNA Deputy Speaker. We just missed an opportunity of having them this morning because we wanted to really engage them on how we can amplify Uganda's agenda in the diaspora. But Katende, because you've been there before, let's also get to understand this. Now, Mututa here makes a very good submission. Do we know who these Ugandans are? Now, it's one thing that Katende graduates from university here and he chooses to go and further his education elsewhere in the world. He goes there and unfortunately he picks up a job and there he starts. We have so many who also move out of this country for good reasons. They go to attend weddings, they go to visit family, they go to take care of cousins or siblings or whatever that is. Then they just find themselves saying, no, I can't. There are those who go to study and genuinely they go and study and say, I am going to university to do a nursing course, to do all these things. And the moment they get there, they start as students on students' visas and permits and all these things. The moment they run out of university or get done with university, then they start thinking, how do I leave the United States where there are lots of these opportunities to go back to Uganda? Now, do we even have a record of who our people in the diaspora are? Do we have a record of who these people are? Do we even care to know who these people are? And why I'm actually pushing for that is recently there was a court ruling that was saying even those in the diaspora can participate in the democratic processes of their countries. Now, meaning if we are having an election back home in Uganda, a Katende in London, a Mututa in Turkey, and a Call in South Korea, a Jagenda in the United States can also be part of the democracy of their countries. Here is where we are. We are demanding for these things. We think, yes, it should happen. But do we even know who is in the diaspora? Do we have their records that if we say, for example, I remember in 2017, when the Kenyans were getting into an election, their ambassador here, Major Okanga, there was Major General Okanga here, Major General Okanga. I actually went to, I was observing the elections at his residence at the embassy in Kololo. And you could see Kenyans living in Uganda coming to be part of that. And you know, they came to the embassy in Kololo, they got the ballots, they voted those who wanted Kenyatta, those who were voting for Raila Odinga, those who were voting for... do we even know who our people are in the diaspora, that when we put up these demands, we are actually real and not just trying to imagine what the situation should be?
Yeah, I think... the first thing is that majority of us who leave the country are economic migrants. Yeah, economic migrants. We go for economic reasons, but in different forms. So you could be an athlete who thinks that Japan is the place to be. You get there and you know, as an athlete, I'm struggling in Uganda. Like
or not even the place to be, but because you've had the opportunity to move out of Uganda to go to Japan.
Exactly. So you know, I can find a job and improve my life.
Yes.
A majority are leaving the country because the economic situation in our country is so tough that many have lost hope in Uganda because they can't see. But even when they get to London, for example, I had many of my friends who I would inform that, you know, Uganda has many opportunities. Why don't we go back? And
Exactly.
then they would tell you, I go back to Uganda and do what? So we have...
In the first place, I was born in Uganda. You said
Yes.
in Uganda, I grew in Uganda. So what new things in Uganda that you're trying to tell me?
And what they see in the media is politics, is security, but not economics. And our view is that if we can change the economic agenda for the country, and that most of these people can see the economic opportunities that they can fit in, majority of them love Uganda. It's until I came to Uganda, back to Uganda, that I realized people in Uganda do not take the national anthem seriously. But back in London, when I could hear the Ugandan national anthem being played, I feel the emotions. I feel that I'm home. And I felt I missed the country. So many of our people there love the country, but they just go because of the economic circumstances. So, and once you get to your final destination, depending on how you land. So if you land as a professional and you have a job, fantastic. You will proudly hold your Ugandan passport and you can go to the embassy like my brother was talking about, saying, and you can register. So if there is an election, I must be given a right to vote for my candidate. But then there are those who land there and say, oh, you know, I'm gay. And you know, in Uganda, they want to kill us. So you immediately seek asylum. There are those, but that one has kept their identity. Then there are those who land there and throw away their passport completely. And they say, I am Somali, and I can't go back to Somalia. So, oh, I'm from Rwanda, or I'm from Burundi. And so there are different categories. So in that particular country, this person is not known as a Ugandan. They are known as
some African from
some African. Some of them are stateless because you can't even prove. And so you can't deport.
I was also told of a stateless Ugandan doctor. A stateless Ugandan doctor who is somewhere in the US but stateless. He got there and where did he come from? He doesn't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
So you can't put them on any flight.
Send them back home.
You send them back home anywhere.
So
there were Nigerians who are deported in Entebbe here.
So when they land in Entebbe, our people here say, we don't know this person. This person is not Ugandan. And they are put back on the same flight.
Back to where they came.
Back to where they came from.
Back to Senda.
Yeah, so, but
yes,
I think in the heart of hearts, many Ugandans would love to come back to Uganda and live in Uganda. And for us, this is why we have initiatives like the Uganda-UK Diaspora Investment Conference that we organize with Mr. William Tenzo, promoter, and a couple of other volunteers every year in London to show people the opportunities in the country. For those who want to come back, those who are asking, I go back to Uganda and do what? We give them the opportunity to say, there are opportunities in agriculture. You can do A, B, C, D. But there are even those who are already settled, but they want to plan. I tell you, when I came back in this country...
After how many years?
After about 13 years. I took early retirement, and I came back to Uganda to do completely new things. Something that is not related to what I have done.
You never went to school to study.
I never went to school to study, but I felt as a business graduate, I could bring business in the agriculture sector. So that the conversation of agriculture is not the agriculture science, but the business. How can I make money from poultry? How can I make money buying and selling ABCD? But the first 3 years were terrible. Because you know you have been in Britain, everything is black and white. You have actually got used to the work cultures, the work ethics, the integrity, blah, blah. Now you come back to Uganda, you have actually changed. Now you're like a foreigner. You come back to the country, and it is a different story. So you have to unlearn many things that you learned in the UK. In the process, you lose a lot of resources.
And time.
There are Ugandans waiting for you to give you deals here and there, but actually they just want to take your money. So I said, if I had come back at 65 to retire with my pension, I would die a miserable man.
Exactly.
Because I would have lost all my pension and cast everybody around me. But I was lucky that I still had a lot of energy. That even after losing,
you could still make up.
I could still come back again. And I take that loss as another degree of understanding the economic environment in Uganda. So it is school fees. And that school fees has now enabled me to settle neatly in the country.
True.
But bringing on board the values I learned in the UK, of hard work, of ethics, of integrity, time management, so many skills that the people in the diaspora have, which they can bring back home. But when they land here, they must unlearn so many things to fit into the environment. And so many are still not decided that when should I go back? If I go back, where should I start from? Many do not have a trusted partner in the country that if I want to invest for that successful return, who do I partner with to ensure that my investment in Uganda works? You are here in Uganda itself. If you are in Kampala and your business is in Gulu and you're not there in Gulu, that business will be a failure.
Exactly.
So, but imagine somebody who is thousands and thousands of kilometers away from the country. So these issues that are real issues that the government, not only the government, but it requires a multi-stakeholder engagement. That government alone cannot solve those problems for the people in the diaspora. The people in the diaspora must have organized themselves as a team. But here in Uganda, we must have trusted organizations, institutions, in government, in private sector, in civil society, in research, in academia, to actually work collectively to solve the problem. The potential is huge in terms of skills for the people in the diaspora,
Yes.
in terms of the capital they come with, technical know-how, and even contacts. Because while in London you're meeting everybody, some rich people, some big experts in a particular field, and we must tap into that potential. But as I see things today, there is no single place. While we are talking about desks, there is a diaspora desk in Foreign Affairs. There is a diaspora desk in UIA. There is a diaspora desk in OP or OPM. So you have diaspora desks everywhere. But there must be a one-stop place where which caters for all for interest of the diasporans, but also where the different stakeholders that I've talked to can engage and tap into this potential called the Ugandan diaspora.
Well, that's very important. Now, there's also a feeling or thinking that many in the diaspora, actually opponents of government, you normally hear more of those opposing government in the diaspora as opposed to those promoting the country. Now, you do not necessarily have to belong or to be part of the regime, but to just remember that you are Ugandan, that you are in London, you are wherever you are, and you have Uganda at heart, and anything that you are doing, you're doing it for Uganda. Now, you'll notice that we have quite a number of those in the diaspora, and this is what people tend to think, that the diaspora is comprised of majorly people who oppose a government. We do not know how these people move out of the countries. At times, we do not even know. You know of a Mtuta who is a journalist with you at UBC. He goes for a particular trip and even maybe runs away with UBC's cameras and anything, never to come back. Then the next day, you hear him talk every ill and every bad thing about this country, Uganda. But he went through the auspices of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation to China, to wherever they are. Yeah. What's that? That we tend so much to think that the diaspora simply means a group or a coming together of people who are anti-government, people opposed to the country more than those who are in for it.
Yeah, but if you look at it, if you come back to Uganda, during the last elections, people were talking about the silent majority. It applies to the diaspora. There are people who
silent majority.
There are people there who do not care about politics. They don't care who is in office. All they want is their country. But the few that are politically minded have an amplified voice. They spend most of their time on these platforms making noise against Uganda. For some it pays because you may be there claiming to be a political asylum, and maybe your application has not even yet been approved. And so you need to demonstrate to your hosting country that you're actually anti-government. But you may find that perhaps you are actually not, but you have a drive to stay in that particular country on political grounds. But those have an amplified voice. They are the most hardworking Ugandans that do 4 jobs. The one Ndugu Mututa was talking about. You will never see them talking about politics because they don't even have the time. For them, they just want to earn their money. Invest that money back home. I have left my plot there. I send the money to my cousin to build the house, but the cousin chooses the money. Yeah. So those are many. Every day they wake up to go and work, and they send money here. The billions in dollars that we see in terms of remittances are from those kind of people. The noise makers we see would actually, you may find that they have no contribution in terms of remittances because theirs is not an economic liberation, theirs is political. They think I need to survive and therefore I must be seen to be an opponent. Okay. And many of them preach hate, many of them spread lies about our great nation, but the other group of which is quiet. When I was in London, we formed an organization called the Uganda Business and Professional Association. This is also business people and professionals. People that you would rarely find in any chivuru for Ugandans in London. When the chameleons come, when the baby cools would come, they would never come to any such functions. Because when you go to these events, people are fighting, they are talking about things that the professionals in banking don't do.
Yes.
So we realize that when I go to an investment meeting or a finance meeting in the city, where you have the who is who in financing in London, you would find Ugandans working for Citigroup, working for Standard Chartered, in big positions. And we were wondering, why don't we, how do we tap into this? So around 2008, we formed that organization, and the target was to identify these people, bring them. But these are people we will never see on Facebook, on anywhere, writing a negative story. But they know a lot about the country. Of course, because of the economic crisis of 2008, 9, 10 there, many of them came back to East Africa. And they are the ones running banks in Uganda and in the region. Okay. But they were based up there. So that is one area, finance. But you have them in medicine, you have them in engineering, in law, all fields. Okay. So the issue here is how do we recognize that there is a section which is a minority that is there for political survival. But there is also a section of very hard-working Ugandans who care about their country's socio-economic future. Okay. Yes. And we deliberately target that group. Okay. Of course, you can see resources may be targeting the minority, and you can use a lot of resources. Okay. But this majority group, for me, is a huge group that even as we think about the investment for our country, they are very big, especially at this time when we have COVID affecting our economy. So we must tap into that diaspora investment deliberately, whether it is through a bond. There must be some financing mechanisms that we use, but it starts by recognizing that they are there, identifying where they are, tap into their networks. So if possible, we can profile them. And then, while we do that in Uganda, we also package our investment opportunities, real investment opportunities, and pitch to them. Because in these countries where they're already investing in their financial markets. They are buying financial instruments wherever they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very important. Thank you so much, Mr. Edward Katende. Of course, you've lived in the diaspora for quite a long time, and there's a lot of expertise and experience that you come with too. Program and Ndugwa call. Just before we get into the break, talk about these issues. Like he's talking about the silent majority, and he's also talking about the very noisy minority. Now, the noisy minority have attracted a lot of attention from the public. For example, we've had these bloggers now. We have Fred Kajubi Rumbuye. I even don't know what he is in this world. There is Peng Peng. There are several others. What is the effect back home here? What is the effect when it comes to talk about Uganda? When it comes to painting Uganda the way they do? Because majority of these actually speak the same language, and this somebody would think and say, well, if you are in Turkey and you're abusing the establishment in Uganda, who cares? If you are in Sweden and you're abusing the establishment in Uganda, who cares? If you are, but of course, the issue is not, you're not addressing those in Turkey, you're not addressing those in Sweden, you're actually talking back to them tutors in Uganda, telling them and doing all the things. What is the effect to our democracies, our socio-economic transformation and our development as individual countries, or when it comes back home?
Well, of course, the effect is there. You see, when negative publicity every other time has an effect on you. And because one, they derail the international community of what is happening in Uganda. Because there are some people, when you're out there and you say, perhaps you're going to Uganda, some will say, well, sure, because all they see is the negative publicity. And there was a time when actually, Bukede, every other time the headline, Bamsaze Komutwe. So now when somebody reads such, of course he gets something negative. You may think that actually Uganda is ungovernable when you read such kind of stuff. And on social media, so actually the effect is there, and the earliest they can have those people stopped, those who are misusing the social media, the better for the country. That's why you find that during the late Magufuli's time, he actually did all it takes to make sure that he contains those who are using social media badly, and of course coming up with taxes and laws that would actually make sure that people don't use, because now it is rare to find that Tanzanians actually misusing the social media, decampaigning their country. Just the same thing with Rwanda. It's actually, you don't find those things as it is here in Uganda. In Ethiopia, the same thing. There's a lot that is going on in Ethiopia, but you'll never find it on social media. So once publicity is negative, it scares our investors. Investors can go. But now that said, but let's also look at our embassies, because that's very, very important. You see, when you're out of Uganda, out of Africa, I'll give an example of the gorillas. There is more publicity that for gorillas in Rwanda than it is in Uganda. Yet we have more gorillas in Uganda than in Rwanda. But the publicity out there is Rwanda identifies. And if whoever is coming to Africa for the gorillas, their imagination, they are going to Rwanda. Now, the other situation also, because I remember we were arguing somebody who actually was convincing me that Mount Kilimanjaro is in Kenya. Why? Because Kenya invests in marketing the tourism sector. That whoever is coming to Mountain Kilimanjaro, most of them come via Nairobi, and maybe slope down to Arusha and then Moshi. So their imagination is that Kilimanjaro is in Kenya. Yet Kilimanjaro is in Tanzania, Serengeti is in Tanzania, but most tourists who come think they're in Kenya. Why? Because Kenya, at most of their embassies, they have promoted their tourism. So our embassies out there, I believe they are not doing a very good job. This is my thinking, because they've done little to advertise the country, to promote the tourism sector, to promote the investment potentials of the country.
That's a call. Now,
Yes.
that's a government problem.
Yes.
That's a government problem. They have agencies, they have the UTB, they have the Ministry of Tourism, they have all these, they have embassies, they have all the things. Now, to a blogger who is out there and their agenda is to actually paint a bad image of the country, do they even care that you've not promoted your own source of the Nile? Do they care that you've not talked about your gorillas? Actually, to them, it's better that you even don't talk about the gorillas, and theirs is every other morning to actually show that Uganda is ungovernable. Uganda is very insecure. Uganda is not a country to live in. Uganda is a country of monsters. Uganda is a country that eats its own people. To them, this is what they want. If the government has not done their best to ensure that we do the promotion like Rwanda promotes their gorillas, we have, I think, the biggest number of bird species is in this country. Now, if we do not promote our own birds, as I visited the governor of the Central Bank of Uganda, Professor Tumushime Mutebire, in his house someday, and he had a very good picture of a marabustok, a karori, in the house, and he said it was actually given to him by some Italian friend in I think Milan. And to this person in Milan, this was a very good thing. Now, little did this woman in Milan know that to us in Kampala, we're actually running after the marabustoks, chasing them everywhere. We do not want to see them around us. Somewhere, somebody says, I don't know whether I'll ever have an opportunity to actually see a living thing like this. Now, they want to see a living karori. In Uganda, the Nasas are killing the karoris wherever they find them.
Well, maybe, but
okay.
what you're saying, I just take it back to the embassies, because Kenya has also bloggers like the likes of Lumbuya. You've heard of Dr. Miguna, but Dr. Miguna, their agencies there to counter his negative propaganda. The embassies where he is, they're actually doing that. Which we don't see, which we are not seeing.
And you even can't compare Miguna to the Lumbuya.
You can't compare Miguna to the Lumbuya,
Yes,
but you see the embassies in Kenya are countering that wherever they are. Now here in Uganda, this is...
Or is it because of the quality of Miguna?
Yes.
Because, you know, Miguna is an intellect that you can't let his lies just go like that. When Miguna tweets and says something, I think it's just very prudent to Uhuru Kenyatta's government or administration to actually rebut what Miguna says.
Yeah, actually from where he is, you'll find that the embassy is responding. Or there's somebody there at that level who's responding. Now we've had a Lumbuya, because I've had the opportunity to visit the embassy of Uganda in Ankara, and the information we got there was that actually more than 70% of Ugandans living in Turkey are living there illegally. They do not have documents. The people who are living there are very, very few, especially those who went there to school. You find that they are very, very few. Now, somebody who has been living in Turkey illegally and making a lot of these embassies, and the embassy was just perhaps quiet for all this time, they should have brought it out a long time ago. That look here, this person is perhaps who is being
hold it there. Mututa wants to come in, but I'll not allow you to come in until we're done with the break here. Are you watching our program this morning? It's the Pan-African Friday. And of course, we're looking at how we can amplify Uganda's agenda in the diaspora for Pan-African Friday today. To Mama Ima Cecilia Ogwal, thank you so much for you watching, and Mama Rebecca Amuge Otengo at the embassy in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. We also thank you so much that you're part of our agenda this morning on the Pan-African Friday. We'll take a break and return. Don't go away.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too!
No! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from the break, and thank you so much for keeping it with us on our Pan-African Friday, where we are talking about amplifying Uganda's agenda in the diaspora. And of course, in studios this morning, my usual panelist, called Mandy Amazima and James Mututa. And joining us in studios today is Mr. Edward Katende, who lived in the diaspora for quite a long time, and he's here now with the Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, and of course, he's joining us. We were supposed to have two other persons from the US and another from the UK who all did not make it to be part of the Pan-African Friday today. Talk about the diaspora. We took a break when you, Mututa, actually wanted to say something. I don't know whether you want to disagree with that call or you want to just add on to his submission. Come in here.
There were two things I wanted to highlight on. First, the thing of the PR of government. It is true that as a government, we may be having loopholes in the way we do our business, the way we market our business. Embassies, until recently, are now having an officer attached for purposes of business to see how Uganda can promote its business, its economic diplomacy in the areas where, in all areas where we're operating. So it's a value that has been added. But in the past, you know, embassies were known for usual diplomacy, the taking of having cocktails, but things are changing. That we now need to be more dynamic. But the other issue of Lumbuye and Miguna, I think we are putting two different things together.
And Peng.
Yes, because you know, Miguna has values, and when he tweets or when he talks about something,
as an intellectual,
exactly, Kenya responds. But you're not going to respond to. I mean, someone said when someone came up and said President Museveni is dead. Do you have to respond and confirm that actually President Museveni is not dead? I mean, you are not going to, because then sometimes you are going to give people leverage which they don't actually deserve. I believe that. But also that Ugandans also need to sieve. Part of where some of the Lumbuyes and Peng are getting popularity is the failure on side of government systems. No, nature doesn't allow a vacuum. So that vacuum will be filled by whatever is there.
Available.
Yeah. So that also, but doesn't mean that government has to respond to every other stupid thing that is brought up. Then you'll be doing other people's work. You'll not be doing your work. Our embassies as marketing centers, of course, in the past we have had issues with budgeting, because whichever activity that takes place in a government establishment has to be accompanied by the budget to be able to do that. And you know, marketing is one big budget to be done. And when you are marketing in big economies like China, like US, like UK, then you need a good budget to be able to do that. But even internally in Africa, because that's also the other mistake we make as Africans, that we look at bigger markets outside Africa, but also forget that Africa is a bigger market. So even the marketing also now need also to focus about Africa, because we have a lot that we can market and share together. You may not have all the resources, but we can put resources together as clusters. You have the African chapter of ambassadors in America, because America being big and vast, you may not have a single embassy of an African state being able to do that. But what can happen is that government can cluster embassies or ambassadors, the African, and the good thing these days, African ambassadors are working together. And people are now thinking, like East Africans were thinking, why can't we have one ambassador for the whole of East Africa? In New York, for example, Uganda House was housing the embassy of Uganda, embassy of Rwanda, embassy of Sudan. So we can use that as one area to do the marketing, that we can market Kenya. But of course, the other things that some countries want to do their own, because they have the edge. They think by competing with the rest of Africa, they will be able to do that. But that is not possible, because if you have a tourist coming to Nairobi, it is likely that some tourists will have to do something in Kampala, or would even end up in Kigali. So if we market it together and we put together packages that we can sell, and there will be even companies that can help us be outside the government establishments that can be able to sell that, because there are a lot of companies, and Mr. Katen must be aware that we are now, the mistake we are making as Africans is to go for mainstream PR companies that are doing the image of government and making leaders look good. But I think many of us had a commentator who was making commentary yesterday when this girl won the
Chimtai.
Yes.
Chimtai.
I mean,
the commentator seems like he's been in Uganda before. He
exactly.
knows Uganda. He's toured Uganda. The commentator sounded like he's another Ugandan.
Exactly. Yes. So that commentary alone can give Uganda another extra 10 years because of that.
So when you say
that is if government can exploit it.
So then the other thing, we also need to look at what makes us unique. You have seen that sports is bringing us up. Can we direct our efforts in sports that we make more of those golden medals? How many anthems, how many times shall we have?
Exactly, because I have been watching the Olympics in Tokyo, and there are specific sports that you see where you see somebody into a particular sport or activity, and they will tell you Akol Amazima has dual citizenship. He's Ugandan, but he chose to run for Canada. You hear that. They're proud to say Akol is Ugandan, but also Canadian.
Yeah.
This is in sports, and you've not seen any Ugandan to say, we are not in them. I saw a tweet by somebody who was mocking us and saying that Chemtai is actually Kenyan, but she only put on a Ugandan attire to confuse the enemy.
So yeah, so there is a lot that can be done in that area. But again, it is not too late, because the dynamics in the international sphere are shifting. That we have been looking at selling matoke, selling banana, selling food, selling, but maybe there are more things that we can sell beyond what we have. Mr. Katend here was talking about the diaspora and the investment in terms of money. Nigeria today has introduced the diaspora bonds, that the people who are living in the diaspora can buy into the bonds in Nigeria, and that's one way of tapping in the potential of the financing from the diaspora. Africa, as we speak now, has a deficit in terms of financing on most of these projects, infrastructure, health services, education, and there's a lot of money from diaspora which is lying somewhere. So instead of going begging from these multinationals and these other companies, we can borrow from our own, that these people can be able to have their money back in the country, and where they will be getting profit on it, but also help the countries. As of today, the diaspora also have issues. You get all your hard-earned money, you send it to your old grandmother, your mother back at home, but this mother has a sick grandchild from your other brother, and your construction is going on. But we also have had issues where constructions are never happened. They take pictures of someone's house, and you continue sending money, because you are worrying that if you came back home, you'll not be able to go back. So now what can be done is that, can we work together, the diaspora and the government of Uganda, to ensure that people who are there can be some negotiations, especially for those who are doing very well. They may not be having their papers, but can we work together to ensure that maybe they can be given a temporary stay until such a time, or those who can. But other than that, then people will continue blaming the government for their own mistakes.
Okay, you wanted to come in here.
On the topic of attractiveness of Uganda, yes, we talked about tourism. Last year, the president talked about the vulnerable versus real economy, and I think financing, or the budget financing, was redirected to the real economy. Unfortunately, tourism was vulnerable. But this year, I was happy that when he imposed the lockdown, he left the tourism open. And I think they have also deliberately invested in sports. You may not believe it. That it is actually, they have realized the importance of sports in terms of uplifting the image of Uganda. Of course, some teams like Uganda Cranes let us down. I am a Ugandan Crane supporter, but sometimes I'm like, oh, we should have won. But the government is showing interest. But an area, when it comes to the diaspora, in terms of attractiveness, there is a group that is left out, especially by policy. The group of what we call the second generation immigrants, our children. The policy in Uganda, while at some stage they allowed us to have dual citizenship, they left out our children. The law is that if you're a minor, a Katende, my son Katende, both parents are Ugandan, their grandparents are here, their ancestors are buried in Uganda, but they are born in UK and they hold a British passport. While the father can have both Ugandan and British citizenship, their child cannot until they turn 18. The people you're hearing that so and so is playing has chosen to play for Ghana or for Nigeria. They are Nigerians born in the UK. They have been trained and taken advantage of the infrastructure and the system in the UK. But they grow up Nigerian while they go to a British school. So our children in the UK, our children in the US, our children in Germany, across the world, they are born Ugandan,
To Ugandan parents?
To Ugandan parents. And they will probably most likely also be buried in Uganda later on. But from the day they are born, they are excluded by their country, by policy and law. So until they turn 18, that's when now they can choose to become Ugandan or not. But I tell you, when the children come to Uganda, they buy Ugandan shirts, the Uganda Cranes shirts. They go back to London, and you go to most of the playing grounds where people play football. You will see Ugandan children donning Ugandan Crane jerseys, practicing with their friends. That alone is even selling Uganda. But their country has excluded them. So on the policy side, I think we just start by simple things like that. I don't know what the lawmakers feared when they were coming up with the law on dual citizenship. What they feared by excluding our children. But they are Ugandans. They must be loved from the day they are born. They must, other countries can prepare them on our behalf, but when they are of age, we can tap into their potential. I give you an example of a very good friend of mine who was born to a family of Ugandan Asians in the UK. But of course, for him, he grew up in London. He didn't know much about Uganda. And then he came here as a volunteer. He had worked as an investment banker in the UK. So he came here as a volunteer on religious grounds. He fell in love with Uganda. What then happened, as soon as he stayed for about a year, and he made up his mind to settle. So at that stage, he took advantage of the dual citizenship. Went to UIA, they helped him, took him through the processes, and eventually he got a Ugandan passport. But because of his networks in London, he was able to raise about £100 million. And is now the fund manager for all his friends who are based in the UK. Somebody giving you 100,000, another one giving you 300,000, another one $1 million. But he has managed. And he has invested in real estate, he has invested in agribusiness, he's investing in different fields. But that is a guy who came when he was an adult. So it's the potential that we have there. Because we, the first generation immigrants in those countries, sometimes we may exclude ourselves. But our children go to school with sons of who is who in these destination countries. So when they become of age, when they are even in their schools, they are talking about Uganda. When they grow up, you want them to use those, because all of us, when we grow up, people we went to school with eventually become our key networks.
Our social capital.
Our social capital. So, and here we are talking about investment, we are talking about human capital development, technological transfers, but our children are trained in the best countries, in China, wherever, and they can. But we need to support them from the word go. But from a policy perspective, a law must.
To all of you.
Yeah, but I think on that one, it is it's not exclusion on part of government, but it is the actual policy even back at home, because of course one was talking about we were sharing about having elections and then having Ugandans out there voting now. In Uganda, for example, I'm giving as part of the policy that to be able to vote, you must have a national ID.
You must be on the voters register.
Yes.
As a given.
Yes.
Number one, you must be on the national voters register.
But the law allows you to apply for national ID.
Exactly.
In this case, the law does not allow my son, who is 8,
below 18,
to apply for Ugandan passport.
Yeah,
okay, so like a junior living in the UK,
yes,
at the age of 8, 9, 10,
yes,
is not allowed to apply for a
Ugandan passport.
Yeah, now
unless he disowns the British passport.
Exactly. Now that
which no parent will allow.
Now that is a matter of policy that can, like we said, that you can because of the situation Ugandans are in the diaspora. it's not like a Ugandan here that you failed to go to NITA and register for the ID, so you maybe have to wait for another cycle. But even then, they have now decentralized that. But as a matter of policy, that can be done. That in the future, when we look at the next generation of Ugandans who are being born, because most of them are born automatically in the countries where they are born. You are born in the America and you automatically become an American. So then one has to look at the issue of dual citizenship. You are an American, but you are a Ugandan. It applies to the father, but should also apply to the child. So these are policies that can be worked on. The only complication will be in a country which does not recognize dual citizenship. Do we have this child as a Ugandan or a country in a country where the dual citizenship is a problem? Because the constitution also clears that you can only be accepted as a dual citizenship citizen, but in a country where you are, that country must be accepting. They must also practicing dual citizenship. But in some countries, it is not possible. But like we said, I think this is a matter of dynamics of the policy. That once it comes to the attention of government, and government knows that, look, we need these people because they have very big potential. These are guys who are going to study a lot of technology professionals, and we don't want to lose them. So it is an interesting area, and I think government can take it up.
There's an association we have just formed recently, Catfish Association, and I'm working with young people, not as members, but these are people, kids that have been trained in Europe. And because the parents are here, they said, oh, you come and join us.
As volunteers.
But the value they have given to us as volunteers, they are young, but the value, the ethics, they work most of the night. And it is fantastic what we have there. The National Development Plan has an entire program for human capital development. But we need to tap into our citizens, our nationals who are
the potential,
the potential that is there. From when they are still children, when they are babies.
Exactly, true. And that's part of marketing.
I wish to come in here. Yes. Yeah, because when it comes to the issue of policy, it takes us back to our parliament, where at times over 70% of the people who come to parliament, they come to either to Kampala when they are coming to swear in. Now, when it comes to issues of developing a policy, maybe debating on a policy, such a policy that actually is going to facilitate the second generation immigrants, then it becomes another Latin to them.
He thinks Parliament will be empty.
So it becomes. So I would love that people like Attende, you should guide what such kind of bills are being discussed. You should always come in and.
Oh, you are saying they should also be members of Parliament?
I know, because ideally, because when you look at
no, to the contrary, me, I wouldn't have a problem when if the attendants will sit say no, we now want a constituency and because this is a very big group.
so those are some of the things. Yeah, but again, Jagenda did talk about Chemtai, saying that some people are saying that, look here, this is Kenyan. He is Kenyan, he just put on the Ugandan jersey. Now, our people from Kapchora, and especially, because actually at times accessing Bukwa, you easily access it through Kenya than actually Uganda. That is one, and she comes from Bukwa. But that again said, in a place called Elgoi Marakwet, actually Jagenda knows the place very well. That is why they have a number of these training fields for athletes. And actually most of the athletes in Kenya come from that region. They go there for training. So most of our Ugandan athletes, especially from Kapchorwa, the Sebei sub-region, because they speak the same language with the Kalenjins in Kenya. So when they are that side, they are home and right. And therefore it gives them chance to train, and actually even those people perhaps accord them the necessary
attention because they imagine they are on. Only for them at the last minute say, look here, we're going back home to Uganda.
You are saying like the one who said, he's saying like
because
the one
now,
who said that,
a Jagenda going to train the name Jagenda, so this is not our own. But when it is the Chemtai, Kipilimo, it's one of their own.
No, you see, the justification of for example, in 2012, when Kiprotich won, the second was another Kiprotich.
Yes.
That's okay, but you see, this is also mocking us that maybe HMTI is not even supposed to be Ugandan.
Yes.
You know, so we know that they train the same, they go to attend, they are from the same, these are the same people, we are the same people actually. They speak the same language, they are the same people, they are the same.
No, on the lighter note.
The one who is bringing it, he's not alluding to that historical facts, but this is like to say, why should even a gold come from Uganda? Yes, it's demeaning us, it's actually derogatory.
It's not demeaning. Because actually, I just want us to look at the positive side of it. Is that now, look here, let us also develop our own ground.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, our own
that's what I'm saying.
Because what Jagenda is saying
we will not push away HMTI because of that historical relationship with the people in Bukwa and stuff like that. HMTI is ours. The Perth Chemtai is actually our own Ugandan, not a Kenyan.
No, but what I'm saying,
when the Kipsang wins and the Kipsiro is second, or when we have a Stephen Kiprotich and a William Kiprotich, one is Kenyan, one is Ugandan. We are happy about that. As East Africans, yes, we are. But whoever says that now, that's when you find the likes of Lumbuye and
exactly.
Others, who are actually taking away the Chemtais. Why should even Chemtai with a gold medal be Ugandan in this very bad Uganda?
No,
yeah, but there's also another angle to what you're saying. You know, in the Bible, when Christ was born, somebody asked, can anything good come out of Nazareth?
Nazareth, yes.
So today, because people are used to the negativity about our great nation, it's the same question comes, can anything good come out of Uganda?
There was one who was, I heard the minority, you heard the minority leader the other time, one was saying that there was nothing to be copied from Uganda.
Yes.
But on the lighter note, one was even saying that, you know, because that is why the deputy president was stopped going to Uganda, because he was going to celebrate a gold win from Uganda.
You know, but gentlemen, coming back to this particular one here, we are talking about all the things, and of course, we look at the economic bit of it, of how we can tap into the diaspora. We are battling with the pandemic. Ndugu Katende here talked about the Uganda Business and Professionals, I think, Association. And we look at Ugandans in the diaspora. Now, we already asserted that these people go to the diaspora for several reasons. Now, there are those who go and they want to study. The next thing they get to is, let me marry and stay here. There are those who go for specific reasons. I'm going for a conference, I'm going for a meeting. We have UNA, for example. Now, what is this UNA in the hearts of Ugandans? One, people know that the easiest way for you to chance an American visa is by purporting to go for that conference.
And then disappear.
And once you get there, the easiest way, because by yourself, you want to go to the US, they will ask you for all these sorts of things and they will fail you. Now, for the only way to get an opportunity to go to the US is by going through UNAM for that meeting, and the next thing is you are there. Now, once you get there, you're on your own. The government becomes bad, the establishment becomes bad, the gold medal should actually be Kenyan. A Ugandan can actually even say it should be, this Chemtai should have crossed from Kenya and found her way into Uganda. She shouldn't be Ugandan. And quite a number of things. But now we are looking at the pandemic, for example, here. Do we have these professionals who are out there? And they are not only casual laborers, they are not only simple workers in there. They are not only thinking about getting a few dollars out there, send them to Twitter here, build me a house. Do we have people in our diaspora who are looking and saying, what the world needs now is a vaccine? I have connections with J&J. I have a connection with Pfizer. I have a connection with Sinovac. I have a connection with Moderna. I have a connection with Oxford AstraZeneca. I have. Do we have them there that they're actually saying, yes, I am a pulmonologist. I know of one of the best pulmonologists in California. He's a Ugandan, one of the best in the world. He's Ugandan. Does he want to come back to Uganda? Does he want even to do anything about Uganda? When they look back and say, there is the Uganda Heart Institute, as a pulmonologist, how can I use my influence? I am in the diaspora, I am in the US, I am a citizen of the US for the last 20, 25, 30 years. Here is where I am. There is the Uganda Lung Institute back home. What do I have to do with the executive director, Karenga there? I am an oncologist in Canada. There is a Uganda Cancer Institute back home. At this time of the pandemic, how can we mobilize ourselves, we who are in the diaspora, and we are experts, we are neurosurgeons, we are oncologists, we are pulmonologists, we are all these things, that we can mobilize ourselves, as opposed to just thinking that I will send some money back home, it will get into the economy because I call my brother will build a house for me. I'll send a few shillings there to do a few things, to possibly put up a farm. We look at all the things. Do we have these people? Or are we thinking like that as a country, that yes, let's now start plotting? Who are our Ugandan experts overseas that we can naturally now tap into their expertise, tap into their social capital, tap into their knowledge, tap into their connections to see how we mitigate the situation at hand. And I think this should also be a good argument for us. Away from just thinking, like you said, Matoke. Okay, there could be a business for Matoke. Now we're thinking the ambassadors at the embassy are marketing us economically, saying, hey, you people, look, we have very good honey here, we have very good Matoke, we have very fresh beans, we have very fresh pineapples, we have all the things, we have lakes and rivers, we have, the commentator yesterday was talking about the Nile and the Nile special, you know. Away from that, are we also looking into saying, our ambassadors, our embassies, our Ugandans out there actually mobilizing themselves to say, hey Katende, you are a pulmonologist. We are in a pandemic that affects the lungs most especially. But you have 13 years experience working on this thing. What needs to be done? What do we have to find to send to Ugandans to actually say, even where there is not enough oxygen, even where there are not several ventilators, but yet again, there is this supplement that when you have it, it does this and that to your lungs and can actually give you life. It supports you in a way. Are we also considering this? Are we looking into this, or we'll just be there? We talk about China, for example. The next thing you'll hear is, I am contesting, I'm the president. You run for presidency for UNA and your term expires, then we forget you. We only write that a call was one time. Then the next is your agenda, then we write you. And things go by and by, just like that. Are we looking into the professional bit of how to tap into the potential of people in the diaspora? I'll start with your call.
Well, I think like Katende did put it, is that our colleagues in the diaspora are frustrated by the modus operandi in the country. That as he said, when somebody is used to the black and white kind of operation, that everything is black and white, and when you come back to Uganda, certain things are in a zigzag form, it's because perhaps he's a patriot that he had to stay. Others would actually, with the frustration you got, you would have just jumped on the next plane and went back. That is actually what happens. So yes, there are desks for the diaspora, but I think those desks are really not doing enough, because we should, you know, there was a time when Professor Balinua said we should have a data bank for human resource in the country. We should know who is where and how government can make use of those people at an opportune time. I think that is what is very important, that we should actually take stock of our people who are in the diaspora, what are their competences and where they can actually help. We have this gentleman who is in Australia. There's one doctor who is actually one of the best heart specialists, but you see, he has eventually become anti-government, which is very unfortunate, because that is a resource that the country would be actually tapping into. Now, let's look at French Africa, and especially countries like Algeria and Senegal, whereby you find that when you look at the French team, actually around 80% Africans, they are Africans, even that of Belgium. But now, those people, they have come up with a mechanism of helping them invest back home, which is actually very right. Now, when you look at countries like Ivory Coast, and look at their first president, Felix, he was actually an MP in France because of, he was one of the beneficiaries of the assimilation policy. He went to France to study. He was elected to the French Parliament and came back home to become the first president of Ivory Coast. But again, when he comes back home as the first president of Ivory Coast, now he used those very contacts to rebuild, to help in rebuilding its country. So these are issues that government should take serious, that we should really take stock of who is where and what they can actually do for the country. They should create a platform, they should create an environment conducive for the diaspora, especially those who are professionals, to render a service, to see how we can tap into their competencies for national development.
Okay, Ndugu Mtuta, on that particular one, on our experts, apart from these little smaller things that we talk about, which of course bring in a good FDI to us?
Many people, especially professionals, when we get out of universities and colleges, the next thing we think about is how to make money, how to have a good car, have a good life. Of course, every person wants a good life, which is a positive thing. But there's also the need to think of our people we serve. The people who have been able to make us who we are. We all need money, but sometimes you have to look at both ends. The serving of the people, but also making money. Of course, in the process. Now, most of the professionals who are in the diaspora are also looking at that. Some of them, like I said, would want to come back home, but how to start and even where to start. Because some of them, even when they come back home, may not even have the jobs they are doing elsewhere. They need to have maybe sometimes to go to private practice. And private practice also in a country like Uganda to start, like he put it, you have challenges. But even the professionals back at home, they are not. There is also that lack of motivation. I'm not talking about money only, even appreciation. I one time said here that we had an accident. We were traveling from Gulu back to Kampala, and the convoy of the vice president was involved in an accident, and we had about 8 servicemen who were badly injured. These people, yes, when we brought them to Mulago, we couldn't expect that any of them was going to survive. Some had the throat cut, another one had the head flattened, one had the driver had his head almost split into 2. And these people were brought to Mulago. Finally, when they arrived in Mulago, they were still alive. And I can confess today to Ugandans listening that none of these people died. Of course, the commander died 2 years later on, but it was due to different complications. But Mulago did all they did, including getting Jaws from Nairobi to come and replace. They did all the makeup for the driver who had lost the face. If you see him today, you may not have the image he had before, but he looks good. And all these people survived up to now. All of them have come back and they are still serving the government of Uganda. Now, in Uganda, no person is talking about that, especially those in the opposition. It was until Samuju's mother was treated in Mulago that he came up to say, look, to appreciate what Mulago is doing. But they are all talking about all bad things. Now, he talked of the 3rd generations of Ugandans who are growing outside Uganda. If the parents, we who are Ugandans, who are born in Uganda, are talking bad things about Uganda, what do you expect our children to say when they're outside there, those who have never been in Uganda? Because they'll definitely know Uganda is such a bad place. So, like Joy last time was talking about Ambassador in London saying that to market Uganda is not entirely the ambassadors or people who are paid to go and do that. All of us, the Katendes and others who are out there, are ambassadors. We need to identify opportunities. Until recently, for example, when we were in Finland, we realized that Finland was still giving free education to everyone. Now, if I'm a Ugandan living in Helsinki or in those capitals of Finland, I would have that opportunity, not even through government, but I can help a fellow Ugandan to go and access that education because that education is good. So It is not only that government needs to be everywhere, because it can't be everywhere. But for us, the Ugandans who love Uganda, who have people, even if you don't like Uganda, fine, but like your people back at home. So that what we do, the things that we do there will help another Ugandan maybe to access that opportunity. But when we go out there and we do things that even those who are hosting us get fed up with, they will close the door for the other Ugandans who would, even with good intentions, want to join us there. We're not saying that Ugandans should all run out there, because what we are saying that those who are out there should now come and help us to put better conditions back at home, but we are not all going to be here anyway. There will still be Ugandans who are going out there, but when they go out there, let them be welcome, like the man who said, Uganda the most friendly. Let's have that with us wherever we are, to know that Ugandans are the most friendly.
Apart from coming back to work home, and Ndugu Edward here, we're not just really causing and saying these people should come back here. But their usefulness in the diaspora, we're looking at them. For example, when you go to the Nordic countries, you have Ugandans are congregating. Those who actually are there, you notice when he is kept on referring to Joy Chakwita, an immigration lawyer in the UK, who was with us last week on this particular program. And she said, yes, during the daytime, we who are living in the UK, legal and officially, are actually meeting the ambassador, we're talking and doing all the things. In the evening, when there are parties, that's when you see now those Ugandans who sneaked into the UK, arriving to come for those parties. Why? To possibly come and drink and enjoy and do all the things. When it's dawning on them, they get back into their caves and hide. We are not saying they should come back and work here and possibly practice here and do all the things here. But we know them, or if government actually knows who they are and know that, yes, we have an expert called Edward Katende, who is working with the NHS in the UK. He's an expert at this. How do we tap into his potential now? How do we get to him? Or these associations that we come together in, like you said, you leave this country and you do not like anything about Uganda. There was a time I was in New Zealand, and I flew from Auckland to another city called Christchurch, about a couple of hours flight. Then I go to Christchurch. In this hotel where I was, in the morning, like at this time, I came to be served breakfast in the restaurant, and I got an African girl. Now, she's from Zambia. And she told me she had not seen an African in 3 years. She had not seen an African in 3 years. Now, she moved from Zambia, she went to South Africa, married a Kiwi man. A Kiwi man moved her but just seeing me, after 3 years, she said, I'm married here, I have my children here, but seeing another African, you know, she just felt like I am from maybe Lusaka. When I also looked at her amongst the Kiwis and the Maoris here, I also felt like I am meeting another Namakura in New Zealand. And that feeling, what does it feel like when you see those living in Tokyo now, and they in those big arenas, and they hear the Ugandan anthem being sung because there is HM Tai who is holding a gold medal on herself, and it's the Ugandan anthem, that feeling. Now, to the professionals who are out there, and you just hear the Ugandan anthem being sung somewhere. You don't have to be told, please come back and invest here, come back and build a hospital here. You're used to a black and white system, you're coming to a zigzag system. But would it be prudent for them to imagine and think and say, okay, I'll not go back to Uganda, but hey, how can I help my country professionally in this regard, as opposed to just sending money to educate your siblings back home?
Yeah, but I think there are issues, for example, of institutional frameworks. Because the moment you start thinking like this, is government would want to use government, that and money starts coming in. That's one thing I found out in Uganda, that whenever there is any new idea, money comes first, and people get budget. When they get budget, they do completely different things. They are both
their programs, they are both their ideas.
Yeah, so they do completely different things. But in every country, there is a Ugandan in the communities working on their own for the good of our country. not for the embassy, not for government of Uganda, but they're doing it for the community. They use their own money, they toil, they work very hard for the good of their community in that particular country. In the UK, for example, there's a guy called William Mutenza. He has done a lot for this country. If we were a country giving serious medals, he would be knighted if it was like the UK.
William Mutenza?
Yes. We started the Uganda-UK convention with him back in, I think, 2010. And he has single-handed, of course, with a couple of volunteers, done this year in, year out. And I tell you, it is a big headache. People think government of Uganda gives him money, blah, blah. It's a big headache to organize an event in London on any subject, year in, year out. But he has coped.
Organizing the diaspora is not also easy.
And organizing the diaspora is not easy. But of course, the other thing he realized that he transferred Uganda to the UK. Here in Uganda, the people you're talking about who sneak in the evening are here also in Uganda.
Many.
Eh? The Muntu Wansi. During the day they are doing their own things. But in the evening, but if you organize a developmental meeting and you put it here and say, I want people who want to change their lives, you probably may not get the right number. If you organize a show and you say we have this comedian or this music thing, you will get. So it is the same community that has transferred to London and to US, wherever it is. And Willie has appreciated that. And therefore he organizes and says, look, I know the few people who are really caring about the development, they are professionals, they have their skills, so let me organize something for them during the day. So they come mix up with the vice president, the speaker, and other people from Uganda. And those guys, you rarely hear them talk politics. They may talk policy issues, which affect their areas, but you will not hear them talking about politics. They are really keen, they want to see things change. So the starting point for me in this is to identify community leaders like William Mutenza in every country where we are. Those community leaders can work with the embassies. But I will tell you, the people in those destination countries will listen more to the community leaders than our ambassadors.
True.
And because sometimes you have ambassadors who just stay at the embassy. They never attend any community funeral, because we lose our people.
Or they are always absent.
They are always absent. But this community man, I've mentioned the Willie, but you have different communities. You have the Vagandas there, you have the Catholic, you have the Seventh-day Adventists, and in each of those Ugandan communities, there is somebody. And that somebody is the one who knows that in my church, I know Joy, for example, we used to go to the same church. But in our church there, we would know the professionals. All of them are known. This one is a lawyer, this one is an accountant, this is a doctor. We know each other. Exactly. But the person who brings us together should be the one that the government must identify and then develop a program, a detailed program. Because what message do I give to a William Mutenza? What promises are we making as a country? What incentives are we offering? So once we have packaged it very well, and we have mapped those community leaders, then we can find the mechanism of passing on the message to them. But also in Uganda, we must there is a need for mindset change. It's a word that is normally used for muntu wa wansi. But even our leaders, our civil servants, our politicians need to change their mindset.
They are not just Bantu Bawansi in looks, but they are Bantu Bawansi in thinking.
In thinking. So they need to change their mindset to up the game and add people at that level. The Ugandans in the diaspora have now left the local thinking and even the behavior. That when I invite you, I can even refer to you as Edward. But in Uganda, you call the honorable. Then in Uganda, you don't keep time. This man sells time. This expert you're talking about in the US or Canada, when he sells time. When he comes to the hospital to do that operation, it is time. And so we need to up our game as well, so that we do not put them off. They will say we will do ABCD at 4 a.m. because at exactly 6 I have another appointment. And
which is a master 10.
Which is a master 10. But then the Ugandan counterpart just shows up at 6:45. So that alone.
To them 4 a.m. means 6 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. But it is important that with the mindset change, with identification of those community leaders, and a very good package from Uganda. That package can be developed with the community leaders. Because on one hand, for you in Uganda, you think something else. But those guys will tell you, that one cannot pass.
Very important. Akol, I'll bring in Katende here to sum it up. What should the government do? What should the government do? Because we are tending to be so expectant from the other side, back home. We have our summer, so when it comes to Christmas times, when it comes to all this time, it's just been disruption of the COVID pandemic. But what should the government also do to benefit those people, to benefit our Ugandans in the diaspora?
Well, I think government needs to engage them. That is one. But also government needs to invest in serious public relations. For example, if you go to Egypt and other countries, perhaps also in Europe, and if they get to know that you are a journalist, especially if you come for a major conference, they will find time to get you journalists who have come for that conference to move you around at their own cost. What are they doing? So that what you're going to see when you go back, you're going to report about it. And that is PR. Now, Uganda before COVID was actually a hub of these international conferences. But you will rarely see the Minister of Information and National Guidance or even the Minister of Foreign Affairs planning such kind of, say, look here, let's pick these international journalists who have come, take them around at government cost. Because that small gesture, you don't know how it is going to market the country, because when they go out, really, they are going to...
China does the same thing.
Yes, they are going to do the same.
They get you, put you in a bus, take you everywhere, take you to Mao's place of birth, take you to all these things. Yes, exactly.
This is something really that...
And before they let you go, they even ask you, what have you appreciated? What have you seen in China? What do you think? What good thing have you seen in China? And what do the people back home think about China? They want to hear from you.
And even when you go back, they keep in touch with you through the email. They take your WhatsApp number, so they're in touch with you. And this is something that it is a small thing, but it can actually take us miles as a country.
Ndugum Tuta, we have 5 minutes, and we want to close this down. What should the government do? What do we need to do, apart from having all these desks? Because yes, we have the desk at Internal Affairs, we have the desk at Foreign Affairs, we have the desk at OPM, we have the desk at URA, we have, and we can have several of these desks. Employer call, employee jargon, employee so and so. We can have them, but how should the government also be very effective into tapping in the diaspora, as opposed to just waiting for monies that come in here because a caller shipped in a car into the country?
And because, of course, that I know the government has been sponsoring some of these activities, especially for UNA. Like I said last time, government has been giving in some money, and for those arrangements that they have been making every other year. Of course, sometimes you get disappointed when you get there, but at least somewhere to start. I know the UK group has also been pushing that they need government support. But for me, I think it's not necessary having government support, that these people are already capable to, like I said, a man was able to raise millions of pounds. It is the program that you are selling that can generate money. Ugandans themselves can even raise money, but I'm not also ruling out that the government should not support. We should support, but also engage in a more professional way. That we need to, because when this money is given, I think it does not address much of the things that we're talking today. You are talking about other things, but I think there is also now the need to engage with the professionals, because much as the president has been talking about ideological disorientation for people who are living in Uganda, that mindset. You can also imagine what happens to people who have been living outside of Uganda. not knowing what is happening at home 10, 20, 30 years. So there's also that orientation that needs to be done. So there must be an engagement between the diaspora and the government of Uganda to have a mutual, to have somewhere we can meet, so that there could be issues that they feel uncomfortable with on side of government, and then they can be that free discussion. Even when we go for these conferences, I know the London conference coming up next month, and because of the situation, I think a lot of it will be virtual. And I don't know what is happening with the UNA, but I think the next, what is on the agenda is mainly now the elections. And of course, normally it is during that conference when the elections are done. But I find, I'm sorry to say this, but I find UK more organized when it comes to, to issues. UNA is organized, but I think leadership, there's a leadership problem there. Mutanza is a volunteer, for example, in most cases, and he works very well. He understands the dynamics and the segregations and the teams, and all works well. He gives those people of the evening the time to dance, and the people of the day business to discuss, and I think it's a good thing to do, but let's have the engagements, and this issue of policy, the policies can be addressed.
Edward, in 1 minute.
Yeah, one, I'm still hot on the policy, the legal framework for dual citizenship, so that our children can be included and therefore attracted. Secondly, packaging of the great things that are happening on the ground in Uganda. UBC, I have not been in this facility. It is state of the art. I've not seen it anywhere in Uganda. We need to use it more to broadcast to the whole world of Uganda, where Ugandans are, the great things that are actually happening on the ground. Because these things are not known. Most people do not know. A sister left here in 2004. She has not been back in Uganda. And the picture she has of Uganda and Kampala is the 2004. And a lot has actually changed since then. So we need to communicate more of the great things, the positives that are coming in. We need also to profile Ugandans that have come back. And even those that are abroad who are doing something back here in the country. There is a website called How We Did It in Africa. We also need to have something like that, like a program, how I did it from the diaspora, so that others can pick a leaf and start following. Of course, there will be challenges, so they can ask questions, how did you overcome these challenges? So that way, we can encourage others. But of course, I have focused more on the economics, but we also have the social side, which is great. The Muzungu commentator yesterday was actually talking about the social side. That we have the beers.
and what can I say? But the bars are closed. But you see, the beer does not only flow in the bar. You don't need the bar to be open for the beer to flow.
So even that
the beers can still flow in people's...
Exactly.
So that social part of Uganda must be marketed, because it is our greatest asset. If you didn't know, across the region, nobody beats Kampala on the social side.
Nightlife.
And so the Ugandans must appreciate that and encourage. They have great friends across the world to come and take advantage.
Well, I want to thank you so much, gentlemen, on the Pan-African Friday. Thank you so much, Mr. Edward Katende, for having allowed to join us today. Thank you so much, Ndugu Akol Mande Amazima and Ndugu James Mtoto here, fellow panelists of the Pan-African Friday. We missed out on having Natoro and Alfred and Joy Chakwita from the diaspora. But nonetheless, we'll stop it here for tonight, and of course saying let's close our hands in prayer as our boys and girls are on the track tonight. It's still possible that we can get another gold, a silver and bronze. It's possible. We've seen countries make it. Uganda can still make it. Let's pray for them, and who knows, we might be now on the list as one of the countries participated in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics with a sizable number of medals. We pray for them, and we think they can still perform and make wonders for this great nation, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka, wishing all the best for the weekend. Until next week, good morning, blessings, and bye-bye. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.